guys, it's the God-given math tutor again, and I know it's been a while and it's honestly a bit awkward to come back after 2 years of not posting, but worry not. Hopefully I'm back again to a consistent posting schedule. I'm gonna be on a really long holiday, so hopefully I'm gonna be consistent. And the reason why I left again for such a prolonged amount of time was because my own academics were killing me, so I couldn't allot enough time in order to generate the amount of videos that I wanted to generate during that time. So hopefully I'm gonna be able to make up for it. And again, my apologies for leaving these accounts, because I left my YouTube and TikTok at the same time for like 2 years, and there's no excuse, honestly. But yeah, so I've come back again with another trigonometry question here, and it says the diagram below shows two adjacent triangles, MNP and NOP. The length of MN is equals to 6.2, NO, so MN is this one here, and they are saying that is equals to 6.2, and then NO is equals to 9.8, NP is equals to NP, this one here, 11.5. So those are already labeled. The size of PNO is equals to 57.4. So PNO is that angle there, is equals to 57.4, labeled as you can see, and PMN is equals to 38, which is there and it's labeled. So the question then goes on to say, calculate the size of MNP. So you can see that it's allotted only 1 mark. So obviously you don't need to do some crazy gymnastics for that 1 mark. So they want us to find this angle right here. MNP is that angle here in the middle here. So here they want you to apply a theory that we call the theory of supplementary angles, or these are just the rules that apply to angles. So what does this rule say? So it says that supplementary angles add up to 180. And what is a supplementary angle before I go anywhere further? So supplementary angles are those which are on a straight line, such as this one. As you can see, we have something like this in this diagram. So it's 57.4, and then we'll just call the side X. So the rule says that angles that are on a straight line are equals to 180. So if I make another diagram in this manner, in this manner, and then I have 3 angles here, I'll label them A, B, C. And if I have those 3 angles like that, they all add up to 180. A plus B plus C is equals 180. So that is what the rule of supplementary angles means. Even if it's like just 2 angles, A and B, it still means, because they're on a straight line, it still means that A plus B is equals to 180 degrees. So they are supplementary to each other. So in this case then, to find what this angle which we're looking for, which I'll just label X, is, basically we are going to say we've already determined that X plus 57.4 degrees is equals to 180 degrees, such as we have done in this rule. We have done it here to show that these angles are supplementary to each other. So well, we want to calculate what X is, which is the angle MNP, right? So we're going to say minus 57.4 to take this 57.4 to the other side. So we'll end up with X is equals to 180 degrees minus 57.4 degrees. So putting it into the calculator will give me 122.6 degrees, and that's how you earn your mark. Very, very simple question. Then let's move on to the next one, which says we are to calculate MP. So here we have already calculated X, so I'll just put 122.6 there. So we are to calculate the length of this side here, which is MP, and in order to do that. And also, oh, there's something that you notice here. You can see that this question is allotted 3 marks, and usually in trigonometry, the trend is a question that is allotted 3 marks is going to be sine rule. You're going to apply the sine rule. So that's an easy way to tell, whereby you need to apply the sine rule versus the cosine rule. Another thing is that in paper 2, usually I think there are a lot more marks. They can give it like something like 4 marks. So that's where the difference will be. But in paper 3, if it's 3 marks, if it's under if it's under trigonometry, it most probably will be sine rule. There's a few exceptions, but let's just say most probably is going to be sine rule. So how are we going to apply it? So basically what we're going to do, what I usually do anyways, I just draw arrows like this. 1, so this angle points to this line here, this angle here points to this line here, and then that angle there points to this line here. So why am I doing that? So that we can be able to apply these things into the sine rule properly. So watch this. So we usually say sine A over A is equals to sine B over B. So how are we going to apply it? Because I've drawn these arrows, you're going to see how simple it's going to be. So sine A would be an angle. So let's choose 38 degrees. And usually what I would do is to point to like angles which have lengths and stuff. So this angle points to a measurement or a line that has a measurement. So that's 11.5. So I can actually use it and say sine 38 divided by A, which is the length 11.5, where it's pointing to, is equals to sine. So here's where it's going to get interesting. So what I usually do, since we're looking for the side MP, I'm going to choose a line that points to MP. So what points to MP here is 122.6. So I'm going to use 122.6. So 122.6. And then B will be that side MP. So we'll just keep it over B because B is what we're trying to find, which is the length of this line here. So what we're going to do in order to make B the subject of formula, so how am I going to do this? Maybe I can say times 11.5, because that's the opposite of divided by 11.5. So if I say times 11.5 times 11.5, I'm going to have this is going to cancel that, and then we have sine 38 is equals to 11.5 sine 122.6 divided by B, and then what I'm going to do is going to be like times B. So that's going to be B sine 38 is equals to times B cancels divided by B, 11.5 sine 122.6, and then divided by sine 38 B is equals to, this is going to cancel that, so B is equals to 11.5 sine 122.6 over sine 38. Wonderful. So we've made it the subject of formula. Usually there's faster ways to do this, but just to keep the simplicity, I won't choose the faster route and I'll just go through the longer route. So B, remember that B still represents this part, MP. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to put it into the calculator. 11.5 sine 122.6. And another thing is to make sure that your calculator is in degrees mode. It's not in radians mode, because that's going to give you a totally wrong reading. So always make sure before your exam that it's in degrees mode, unless you're an additional mathematics student. Yeah. So 11.5 sine 122.6 over sine 38 gives me 15.73. Oh my gosh, 15.73624 947. And make sure to write it all out. Like, it's not gonna hurt if you write it all out. So it's 15 point whatever that whole number is. And then remember, in the front of the paper it says that you should give your answers to 3 significant figures. So I'm going to put it to 3 significant figures, which is going to be, we're gonna count them together. 1 is significant, 5 is significant, 7 is significant. So that's already 3 figures, right? I mean 3 significant figures. So we're going to check if this next number is 5 or more, and if it's 5 or more we round up, but in this case it's less, so we're not going to round the 7 up to an 8, so it's just going to remain 15.7. so we're gonna say 15.7 meters and indicate that it is to 3 significant figures, and then that's it. That's how easy that is. And then we're going to move on. The next thing that we're going to do is the next question. I think we can even label this, so let me label it 15.7 meters. So let's move on to the next one. It then goes on to say, let me write it here, C. OP, we have to calculate OP, so OP is this one right here. And remember, because it's a formal question, it's most likely going to be application of the cosine rule. So usually they won't ask the cosine rule within a paper 2. So for students who are only going to write a paper 2, you don't need to worry about that. But yeah, you are going to apply the cosine rule if it's 4 marks in a paper 3, and usually the sine rule will be 3 marks. So in this case, the sine rule says, so before I even get to what it actually says, maybe let's highlight 2 things. So in the front of your paper, they definitely will have the formula for sine rule, and then they'll also have the formula for cosine rule, and there's usually 2 formulas. So the first formula is to calculate the length of a side. So is the a squared is equals to b squared plus, let me just write them down, a squared is equals to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. So this one is to calculate the length of a side, but if it's to calculate an angle, or if we're calculating an angle, you're going to use the cos a is equals to b squared plus c squared minus a squared over 2bc. So that's what you're going to use. And in this case, it doesn't want us to calculate an angle. It wants us to calculate the length of this side, right? So because it wants us to calculate the length of that side, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this one, this first formula, which calculates basically the length of a side, and we're not looking for an angle, so I won't use this formula. So let us go on to input the values. So let me write the formula first. A squared is equals to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. So what is going to be a in this case? So a, I'll put it as the length of the side we're trying to calculate, which is this one here. So it's going to be OP, but I'll just leave it as a just for our convenience. Or actually, another thing we can do before I even proceed, at this point we can just take the square root of a, take the square roots of whatever is on the other side, and because we're doing the same thing to each side of the equation, this square root will actually cancel out that squared. So we're going to remain with a is equals to square root of b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. And then it makes the job easier for us. All we need to do is just input values. So b in this case, this is what I do usually for the cosine rule. So usually the b and the c will usually be the 2 sides that enclose the angle, which are these 2 sides here. So those are the ones that enclose the angle, and then the angle itself will be the cos a, so it will be 57.4. So for b, I'll just input any of the parts, or any of the sides rather, that enclose the angle. So I'll start with 11.5 plus 9.8 squared minus 2 times 11.5 for b, 9.8 for c. I don't know if I'm gonna have space, oh my gosh. Cos 57.4, which is the angle that is enclosed by those two sides. So we're going to end up having that. So just put it into the calculator. It's a lot to put in, but yeah, there's nothing you can do. Plus 9.8 squared minus 2 times 11.5 times 9.8 cos 57.4. Let's see what it gives us. So it gave me 10.33. So let me write it down. 10.33 687.888 meters. So remember, we give our answers to 3 significant figures. So we are going to count the number of significant figures. 1, and in this case the 0 is going to be significant because it's in between 2 significant numbers. So if it's in that case, the 0 is going to be significant. So 1, 2, 3. So that's going to give you 10.3 meters. And remember always to check the number after to see if it's 5 or greater. And in this case, we're not going to be able to round up the 3 to a 4 because it's less than 5. Yeah, so we're going to say 10.3 meters to 3 significant figures. Wonderful, very simple. And then the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to proceed to D. So usually I would write my measurement. 10.3 meters is fine. And then it says the shortest distance of N from P. Oh, this was supposed to be from. So the shortest distance of N from MP. Oh, I'm going to have to rub all of this. I'll just put the 122.6 there. So the shortest distance of N from MP would be this. It's just to draw a line that goes like this. So that is the shortest distance. Or just, yeah, imagine it as the shortest distance. So here at this part, it will hit it at a right angle. So if you can recognize it, we're going to need to apply our favorite rule of SOH CAH TOA. So how are we going to apply that? And remember, this question takes 2 marks, so it's most probably going to want us to do SOH CAH TOA as compared to the cosine rule or the sine rule. So we need to determine which one is, or which values we have. So because, yeah, so what we're going to do, we want this distance. So I don't know if I should label it X. I think I'll label it X, yeah. Let me just pull that triangle out from that. So basically what we have here, we have a triangle that's going to look like this. Something like that. So we have another 38 degrees here. We have 6.2 here. So if I turn this triangle, if I turn it to be something like this, like a regular right angle triangle, you can do that. And then have the right angle here. We are going to have the 6.2 be here. I think here I forgot to label X, of which X is there. So if I put it, then X is going to be here. And then 38 degrees is going to be here. So this is basically how the diagram just looks like. If you like flip it a bit, you know. So this is basically what they want you to calculate. So in this case, well, let's look at this angle. So usually the hypotenuse is the longest side, so 6.2 will be the hypotenuse. Even here 6.2 is still the longest side, and then whatever the opposite on the other hand would be whatever is opposite to this angle. So the opposite of 38 is going to be X, which is what we're trying to look for. So we have the opposite, we have the hypotenuse, right? So we already have those two angles. In this case, we don't have the adjacent. The adjacent will be this other one, which is here, it's adjacent to the angle, so just meaning that it's next to the angle. I hope that's making sense. So it's going to be this part which is here. So in this case, because we have the opposite, we have the hypotenuse, we also have the angle. Obviously, we're going to apply the saw part of it. So that's going to be sine theta. Theta just means angle, so sine theta is equals to the opposite over the hypotenuse. So the opposite in this case is x. Oh, let me start with sine 38 is equals to the opposite, which is x, over the hypotenuse, which is 6.2. So we're going to make x the subject of the formula. So times 6.2 times 6.2. We're going to have x is equals to 6.2 sine 38, and then put it into the calculator. 6.2 sine 38 is going to give us 3.817 blah blah blah. So 3.817101147 meters. So remember, 3 significant figures always. So let's count them together. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. So we check the number here and we can see that it's 7, so it's greater than 5, or greater than 4 rather, so, or 5 or greater. So that means that it's going to round up the 1 to 2, so we're going to have 3.82 meters to 3 significant figures. Wonderful. That was very simple. So here are the answers to this question. And yeah, I have other questions of which I'll continue to do in the other videos. But yeah, hopefully this one made sense. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to leave a comment. I'm actually looking at the comments this time, so you don't need to worry. And thank you for always watching. Bye guys.